What's up, everybody? Matt Parrino here with Ryan Talbot, Buffalo Bills football podcast, coming to you from inside Acrisure Stadium, where the Buffalo Bills just won a barn burner. Ryan Talbot, 9-3 here. It was, and I'm holding the computer. We have nowhere to put it, so we're down here on the field here after what, honestly, Ryan, I think was a lot of good signs from the Bills today. Most of it came on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to get into all that today. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great, and you nailed it, Matt. A lot of positives on the defensive side of the ball. Last week, Sean McDermott was talking about how the Bills didn't live up to their standard. I think they really did tonight, all three, first, second, and third team defense.
So I want to start with who I thought was the star of this game. Greg Rousseau. I wrote it in the headline. I said he was an absolute menace. He really was. It started from the very beginning. I was like, are they going to block this guy? Because he is going in every single time. The matchup was advantageous. Broderick Jones for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the second-year player, he just didn't have any answers for Greg Rousseau. But I feel like this is a good sign. No Von Miller. Greg Rousseau comes out here tonight, makes a huge statement. He was the player of the game for me. 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 3 quarterback hits, and Russell Wilson probably somewhere in here or on his way home wishing that he didn't have any Greg Rousseau encounters today.
Yeah, I wrote in my article tonight that both Jones and Russell Wilson are going to have nightmares about Greg Rousseau. And all those stats that you just mentioned, Matt, Rousseau did it in 1 quarter. So to do that, to have that kind of performance, shows you how dominant he really was. He used his strength to just push Broderick Jones back. Russell Wilson is not the mobile quarterback that he once was, or as he once was. So once Rousseau was able to get by Jones, it was pretty much over at that point. Great performance by Greg Rousseau.
Some people watching as I hold this computer up right now. This is a legendary performance by me. As the producer of the show, I am holding the computer with my left hand. Bad news, Ryan. I did arms and buys and tries today. So I'm putting extra pressure on the left hand here. But we had to get this shout in because we got to get on the road. We're driving back to Buffalo tonight.
Yeah, we're on the road as soon as we're done with this episode. Like I said, we had to get this in tonight. Too much to talk.
People are saying there's nothing that screams preseason more than Ryan Talbot and Matt Parrino together on the field after the preseason game. Joe Andreessen, the UB product. I knew after this game today we were going to be talking about a linebacker that comes out here and has a big game. I thought it was going to potentially be Dorian Williams, but it ends up being Joe Andreessen, who finishes the game with an unbelievable 12 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. 12 tackles, yeah. Dude, if he had 12 sacks, could you imagine the conversation that we would be having? No, 12 tackles, 2 for a loss. He was absolutely spectacular today. And I wrote it in my post-game takeaway story. He went from a guy that was on the roster bubble, probably a practice squad hopeful, to now we got to be talking about him as a serious contender to be on this 53-man roster.
I love the story of Joe Andreessen, and he was not even a practice squad signee initially, Matt. This was a Bills rookie mini camp. End up signing him, and he performs the way that he did tonight. That's a true underdog story, from going undrafted, no practice squad signing, to now potentially being on this 53-man roster.
Are we back? Brian Allman, one of our YouTube regulars. I switched over to my hotspot, so hopefully this will be better. He said it's super, super choppy. Hopefully we're back. The internet in Acrisure Stadium has been bad all night.
I was going to say the internet's a lot like the quarterback play tonight. Just terrible. Absolutely terrible here at the stadium.
All right, we got to get into Mitchell Trubisky because I wrote about it, Ryan. Like, I don't know if the Bills have a serious problem on their hands here. Of course, Josh Allen, he's only played eight snaps this preseason. You're going to get him back at some point here, playing every snap. But if you were to miss any considerable time, I don't know what the Bills are going to do, because I just thought Mitchell Trubisky was as bad as it gets tonight. I know he completed a lot of passes, but a lot of those were checkdowns. The one chance that he took over the middle, which was a pass I thought he should have completed either to Matt Collins shorter, or Quentin Morris, who was a little bit further, completely over his head, right into the arms of the defensive back. Just really choppy play from Mitchell Trubisky. Didn't look comfortable. And that was behind an offensive line that I thought protected pretty well for him.
Yeah, minus that first series with Connor McGovern kind of getting blown back or missing a block. The offensive line held up nicely, but the book is out on Mitch Trubisky. He holds the ball too long. He dinks and dunks. When he tries to stretch the field, usually good things do not happen. He did have one or two nice passes tonight, but the interception, and then he had a few near interceptions as well where he got very lucky that the ball didn't get turned over. So it's definitely an issue. He exited tonight's game with an injury. That's something we're going to have to monitor, Matt. If it is something that is potentially serious, the Bills have to go back to the drawing board on that position and, maybe entertain a guy like Ryan Tannehill to take over as that QB2.
I really thought that the conversation around Ryan Tannehill was interesting on social media today because this is a guy that's been panned in Buffalo for almost a decade now. I mean, a guy that struggled in Miami. I don't think anybody thought that they were going to be on the team go sign Ryan Tannehill train, but that's the place that we're at because Trubisky has been so bad. I even saw our good buddy Joe Moreno over from Locked On Bills tweet out, bring back Kyle Allen. And we all know how bad he was last preseason.
Yeah, when you're asking for Kyle Allen to return, that's pretty telling because he left a lot to be desired too. And, we've said this before, Matt, if something were to happen to Josh Allen for any extended period of time, this season is over. But if we're talking a short-term type of deal, 1 or 2 games, you want someone that can come in and at least get you a win or two out of one out of 2 games. I don't have that kind of faith in Mitch Trubisky. You'd have to be very run dependent. The defense would have to be lights out. Trubisky has, I see in the comments, regressed over the years. And I know the Bills rave about him, how he is in the locker room. It's just not there on the field.
He plays scared.
He does.
That's the bottom line. And I think on a team with Josh Allen, whoever the backup quarterback is going to be, you need kind of like a gunslinger mentality to go along with him. And like Mitchell Trubisky, for all of his positives, all of his faults, he's never been that. He's always been a guy that's been a little bit worried about the mistakes. Kind of reminds you of a Trent Edwards in that way, right? Somebody that's going to come in. A poor man's Tyrod Taylor. Is that a crazy comparison?
That's
like,
not.
I think Tyrod Taylor gives you a little bit more juice, a little bit more like plays where he can make a play or two at times. But again, I think that the one thing about Taylor is that over the course of a long season, it's just too safe.
Absolutely too safe. The only difference I would say, too, is when Tyrod Taylor unleashes the deep ball, he's usually pretty accurate with it. So that's one difference there. See in the comments, Bailey Zappi for the Bills. Obviously that's a waiting game, but he will be the odd man out in New England. I highly doubt they're keeping 4 QBs. He would be someone that I wouldn't mind bringing in, still young, worth developing, probably more upside than what you're going to get out of a Trubisky. So, yeah, that's also an option. But a Tannehill would have to be the talk right now if it was a serious injury to Trubisky because you need someone for that 3rd preseason game.
If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Sorry it's a little bit of a shaky broadcast. We're in a rush here. We got to hit the road, but we wanted to get you that live post-game episode of Shout. There's nowhere to set up the computer. Usually every stadium I've ever been at, down on the floor like this, we're able to find a spot where we can prop this thing up. It just didn't happen here tonight, so it is what it is. I want to talk about Javon Solomon. Greg Rousseau on a night like this, he was so good. Ed Oliver was so good as well. But I thought Javon Solomon, to me, based on his performance in the first preseason game, and then again tonight, I think he solidified that 5th edge rusher spot. We figured Dwayne Smoot's going to be in the number 4 spot. Solomon's been really good, and he's physical on special teams. I really liked a lot of what we've seen from Solomon.
Love the way that Solomon has ended this summer. He started out very slow at training camp, Matt, where we had some discussions about his viability on this roster. He has come on in the preseason. He's been a asset on special teams, and we're seeing him get to the quarterback on defense. As I'm now talking over these guys cleaning off the field.
You're doing a good job of it.
Well, thank you very much. I want to talk about a rookie myself here, and it's Daquan Hardy. Hardy is a case of, we talked if he was 2 inches taller. This is a guy that could have had 2 or 3 interceptions tonight, in the right place at the right time, just missing some balls through his hands, hitting them. I thought, though, that based on how he performed at the joint practice, how he performed tonight overall, he's another rookie that's trending up in my book.
Yeah, I think the thing that stinks for Hardy is we were talking about it a little bit. It's like you wish that he was a little bit taller. right?
Right.
I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I'm going to stop right there. But he is a baller. Like, he's a feisty guy. He's somebody that gets in on the play. He gets physical as a tackler. And honestly, a lot of the plays that we saw here tonight that maybe he didn't make, a couple of interceptions that whether they went through his hands or he just couldn't get up high enough to make the play, at some point, I think that those are going to be plays that he's able to make. And you love the versatility of a guy like him, of a guy like Jamarcus Ingram, who, dude, early in this game, he set the tone on special teams.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about a roster lock at this point, and a position group that's going to get no more outside love unless there's an injury, I'm talking about cornerback.
Right.
Daquan Hardy can play on the outside. Ingram can play on the outside and in the slot. They have a ton of versatility in that room.
Jamarcus Ingram has made cornerback no longer a concern in my book. The depth was a big issue for me early in the summer. He has stepped up with his physicality, with the way that he's played in the preseason. It just goes to show you that you have to trust in the development of these players. He's been on this roster in a practice squad capacity for a few years now. He knows this scheme very well, and he has now earned that roster spot here in Buffalo.
If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit that like button, subscribe as well. I can't even think right now, Ryan, because these blowers are so loud. You were absolutely crushing the insider text line tonight. Tell everybody what they can get if they sign up.
Yeah, you can get our instant observations, our thoughts throughout the game, pregame as well. We are always talking with our insiders, trying to answer their questions on our car ride home. I'll be answering as many of your questions as I can. So if you have any questions for us insiders, make sure you get a hold of Matt and myself. If you're not an insider yet, the number is 716-528-6727.
And where can they go if they just want to sign up online?
I believe it is joinsubtext.com/shout podcast. Is that correct?
Shout Buffalo Bills.
Shout Buffalo Bills.
You were close, dude. That was pretty good.
Close.
The Shout Insider text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Byer. I want to see if I can do this from memory. Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at, oh no, I forgot the number. The read is absolutely ruined, guys. Like, I'm so sorry. Do you remember it?
I do not remember the number, but you were nailing the beginning of this for the Litro Law.
I got it. Located at 237 Main Street, Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give Carrie a call at 716-852-1234 or go to litrolaw.com. Where do you want to go next, buddy?
Real quick, touch upon special teams. I thought Sam Martin rebounded nicely after an up-and-down preseason opener. Tyler Bass made all the chip shots that the Bills set up for him. That is a little bit of a sigh of relief if you're a Bills fan, so encouraged there. Coverage units, I thought, played well. We've already talked about some of the tackles, and still up in the air on the returner jobs. Hardy, who we praised for the defensive play, catching one a little bit deep there in their own territory, probably one he'd like to have back. But overall, a positive night for the special teams. What about you?
Let's get into the injuries a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that was a big storyline coming out of this game, and it's one where you're continuing to be concerned if you're the Bills or you're Sean McDermott about this team's inability to keep guys healthy. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling gets absolutely crushed on a short pass where he's already kind of wrapped up. Peyton Wilson, the linebacker from the Steelers, comes downhill, blasts him. He leaves the game with a neck injury. Trubisky injured with a knee, shoulder for Quentin Morris. And then what was the other one? There was another guy.
Austin Johnson calf injury. And then not to mention, you also have DeMar Hamlin, who suffered some kind of undisclosed injury at the joint practice and was not suited up tonight either. So they're leaving Pittsburgh worse for wear.
The safety position is a concern right now, Ryan. I thought Cam Lewis and Taylor Rapp played really well tonight, but I feel like Taylor Rapp's got to be put in a bubble. I mean, he is the only healthy safety right now for the Buffalo Bills. You have, I think, Cole Bishop and Mike Edwards kind of circling the wagons a little bit, if you will,
right?
Trying to get back. But I don't know how close either of them are. They're still off to the side in practice. I haven't seen them even working in individual drills at practice yet. The safety situation is a major concern. And now listen, if DeMar Hamlin tweaked his upper leg, whatever that ended up being, you're not going to want to run him out here today. I was actually shocked that Dawson Knox played today because he had the groin injury. Could you imagine if he would have hurt that thing today after he had already kind of been dinged up with that? So we're watching the injury situation. I think what's going on, the calf for Solomon, Sheila Atkins brings that up. He didn't return to the game. He seemed like he was walking okay. It looked like Mitch was walking okay as well in the tunnel after the game. But you're getting to this season here and you're already kind of like the walking wounded. There's a lot of teams across the league that are dealing with injuries. I mean, I think it was the Eagles that were dealing with a ton of injuries one day in practice. Might not have been in the Eagles. I got to think of who it was. But a lot of teams are dealing with it. But it stinks because they got to get guys healthy.
Yeah, especially the safety position, Matt, where they're already down 2 guys, Cole Bishop, Mike Edwards. I'm afraid I might lose you here pretty soon. I saw Parrino getting after it today, running outside around the hotel. He might be getting a call to be that emergency safety here if things keep up.
You're just going to drop the joke and then just move on to the next topic? Expect me to move on to the next topic? Dude, you're rolling right now.
All right, well, fair enough. But, it's certainly a concern because with DeMar Hamlin exiting the practice, we still don't know, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. We were never told the specifics of it. We did see the wrap around the upper leg. We are seeing Cole Bishop do some work off to the side, so that's an encouraging sign. Maybe he can be back in time for the regular season, but there is a lot of stress specifically on the safety position right now because of all the injuries that they've suffered.
We were a little bit choppy at the beginning, so I want to go back to the defensive line a little bit here because I think the way they played tonight was a bit of a statement.
Yeah.
Von Miller's on the sideline in a cap watching. He's not even come back yet, and I think that there's a little bit of energy around his return here coming up in a couple of weeks. He's not playing the preseason, obviously. They're going to save all of his snaps for the regular season. Rousseau looks like an absolute menace. I mean, like I said in the headline, you have Ed Oliver that was working. I thought when they were sending pressure today, blitzing defensive backs, linebackers, it looked like this defense was finally kind of firing on all cylinders. If they play like they did tonight, and I know they're not going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, that offense might end up being one of the worst in the NFL,
right? But
it is a huge sign for what they're doing heading into a game against Kyler Murray in the opener where you don't know how much better that offense is going to be.
No, absolutely not. And, one encouraging sign tonight, whether you're talking about the starters or even the third team defense, was the way that for the most part they kept Justin Fields in check, a very, athletic quarterback that can run very much like Kyler Murray. I thought one of the last sacks that they had on him tonight, it was they contained well. They made sure that they timed everything correctly. They got after him. I loved what I saw from all 3 units tonight on this defense because they're going to go against a lot of mobile quarterbacks in this league, and you need to be able to get them off their mark, but also contain them so they don't get away. There were a few plays in the third quarter where Fields showed off that athleticism, but overall, this is a guy that some Steelers fans are hoping can win the job at some point, and the third team defense shut him down.
The last thing I want to talk about is this offensive line. And, we saw their starters play well beyond when some of the other starters were coming out of the game. They wanted to get some reps for those guys today. And I thought, the other piece of the Mitchell Trubisky game that I think we got to really hone in on is he had time back there.
Yeah.
Like that front for the Pittsburgh Steelers, unless they were sending some kind of pressure, it wasn't having a lot of success. They were not getting home. And so if you're the Bills, you're excited about that, but you're also kind of a little bit disappointed that maybe Mitchell Trubisky couldn't do a little bit more with the time that he did have.
Yeah, like I said earlier, man, there's only one play in the first series where they got beaten very quickly, that being Connor McGovern. Overall, they held their own very nicely, a nice rebound effort from the starting offensive line after what we saw last week in their preseason opener. When they're holding up and they're blocking well, you think that Trubisky should be able to find guys down the field. There were 1 or 2 times, though, where he looked like he was going to go downfield, and what does he do? Kind of pump fakes it and then either drops it off or takes a sack. At least one of the 2 sacks that he took tonight were 100% on him. So it's an area of concern seeing Trubisky is still the same quarterback. I don't think there should be any surprise with that, but unfortunate nonetheless.
We'll be back on Monday with our next Shout podcast. The Bills are going to practice on that day, so we'll be back. We'll have had a chance to kind of watch this thing back, get a little bit deeper into the second half and some of the performances. I've seen a lot of comments in here about Kingsley Jonathan and the game that he had, obviously bringing down Justin Fields. I thought the tackle for a loss on a 4th down by Andreessen, another big play for him in the second half. I mean, it was probably almost tough for Sean McDermott to take him out of the field because, you know how football guys are. They're competing. I know it's the preseason. It's a close game. They're kind of getting down there on that one drive. You wonder if they break through for a touchdown, they can win this thing. And Andreessen was playing so well. I thought there was a little bit of dip off when he came out of the game, and another feather in his cap. But I think Kingsley Jonathan is right there. The thing with Kingsley is we've played out this story now the last couple of years. We know what he can be. We know that even at the height of what they thought he could be, he still hasn't found a role. So I think it's like, Javon Solomon, if healthy, is going to notch over him, and they'll take their chances with the practice squad.
Yeah, perfectly said, because we already have seen Jonathan get some opportunities, get some run with the 53-man roster. And when he's had those, one, he either can't get on the field, or two, when he has not made an impact. So I think the Bills will roll the dice on that, try to develop him further on the practice squad as long as it clears waivers.
All right, that'll do it for this one. For Ryan, I'm Matt. Acrisure Stadium, Bills 9-3, second preseason in the books. We're almost to real football, everybody. Take care. Have a great rest of your